One of the more common topics of inquiry received by the Manitoba Real Estate Association's Department of Professional Standards from members of the public is trust deposits. Many of these questions relate to situations in which a buyer has provided a deposit and will not be proceeding with the transaction because they could not satisfy one of the conditions. Common questions include, who has my money? How do I get it back? And why was my money deposited before all of the transaction's conditions were met? Ensuring that your clients are well informed about the real estate transaction process before they make an offer to purchase is essential to ensuring their satisfaction regardless of the outcome. Therefore, in this BRITE lesson, we will review the deposit process, trustees' legal obligations, and the importance of sharing these details with your buyer clients. This will help reduce the likelihood of your clients becoming frustrated by any uncertainty of their money's whereabouts, or the clients losing faith in the real estate industry due to a lack of knowledge or understanding. Before we begin, take a moment to reflect on your current practices. First, what details about the deposit process do you currently provide to your clients? Second, at what point during the real estate transaction do you provide these details to your clients? Why then? If you'd like additional time to consider these questions, please pause the video and resume when you are ready to proceed. In essence, a deposit is a good faith payment that is made by the buyer and is held in trust by the listing brokerage until the offer to purchase is fulfilled, generally at closing. This payment becomes part of the purchase proceeds at the time of closing. However, if the offer to purchase is subject to conditions that cannot be met, such as upon approved financing or a satisfactory home inspection, then the deposit funds are to be returned to the buyer. If the buyer chooses not to proceed and does not fulfill their contractual obligations, the deposit will become the property of the seller. In the event that the deposit is to be returned to the buyer, many buyers are dismayed to learn that it won't be returned immediately. This becomes a cause for concern. To avoid the confusion and frustration that buyers often experience in this situation, salespeople should proactively explain the deposit procedures before the offer to purchase is submitted. When making an offer to purchase, a buyer will give their deposit to their agent. If the deposit is made by check, certified check, bank draft, or similar monetary instrument, it will be made out to the listing broker, and the buyer's agent will present the deposit to the seller's agent. If the deposit is made in cash, the buyer's agent will provide a receipt to both the buyer and seller and turn the cash over to their broker. The broker will then deposit the money into their account until the buyer's offer to purchase has been accepted. So what happens if the buyer's offer is not accepted? Section 2C of the Residential Form of Offer to Purchase states, the deposit, howsoever paid, will be held by the broker holding it as trustee for the buyer, and same shall be returned to the buyer without deduction, interest, or other change of any kind if this offer is not accepted in accordance with its terms. If the buyer's offer is accepted, though, the deposit is subject to the terms of Section 2D of the Residential Form of Offer to Purchase, which reads, after this offer has been accepted by the seller, the deposit shall be held by the listing broker in trust, and the deposit shall, subject to the terms of this offer, be paid or credited to the seller as part of the purchase price when the seller has carried out the seller's entire obligation under this agreement. The terms of Section 2 are fairly clear, especially when the transaction unfolds without issue. What the terms do not reveal, though, are the legal obligations that trustees are subject to when holding the deposit, and some of these may subsequently create concerns in less than smooth transactions. Many of the trustees' legal obligations are set out in the Real Estate Broker's Trust Account Regulation. The obligation that most immediately impacts buyers is the requirement for brokers to deposit checks into a trust account no later than the next banking day after acceptance of the offer to purchase. For certified checks, brokers are allowed an extra day. The significance of this timing is that the requirement occurs immediately upon acceptance, not upon fulfillment of any conditions. In other words, If the buyer included any type of condition to which the closure of the sale was subject, such as upon approved financing or an acceptable home inspection, their deposit would already be placed in trust by the listing broker due to their legal obligations. Salespeople must explain these circumstances to their buyers before they submit their offer to purchase, so that the buyer later understands why their deposit check cannot simply be returned. Buyers should also be advised that once the monies are deposited into the listing broker's trust account, the broker must ensure that the funds have cleared and are now in the trust account. This process can take a few days or more. After the monies have been confirmed, the brokerage will issue a check from their trust account to the buyer to refund the payment. Again, this process could take a few days or more depending on the policies of the bank and the brokerage. Buyers must be made aware that once the monies are deposited, it could take several days or even several weeks to get deposit funds back to the buyer. While a salesperson cannot accelerate the amount of time it takes for the deposit to be returned to the buyer, they can help to better prepare the buyer before any problems occur by carefully discussing the process and potential results with them prior to submitting the offer to purchase. This is critical because buyers count on the same deposit funds being available for other real estate purchases if the original purchase fails. This is even more important in an active seller's market like we are experiencing in the summer of 2021. Further, buyers are often shocked to learn that it will be several weeks until the monies are refunded. If buyers are told in advance by their agent that the deposit is held in trust, that trustees are legally obligated to deposit monies within a specified period of time, and that it can take several days or longer for the monies to be returned, they could plan accordingly. While it is not necessary for agents to discuss the following items with their clients, brokers who act as trustees should also keep the following in mind. First, as per a 1998 MSC notice, brokers are not required to obtain a signed release in order to disperse a trust deposit. If entitlement to the deposit is not in question, then the payment should be made to the appropriate party. If entitlement to the deposit is in question, the broker should consider not releasing the funds until the parties have resolved the dispute and provide joint direction on the matter. This is often done through their lawyers. If the parties cannot come to an agreement or if any uncertainty still exists, the broker should seek advice from their lawyer. There is a process for a brokerage to pay deposit funds into court, and ownership of the funds would then become a matter to be determined by the courts. Providing your clients with clear and detailed information regarding the deposit process before they write their offer to purchase is an effective means of mitigating potential confusion, anxiety, and frustration. In a situation in which the transaction cannot conclude because a buyer's condition cannot be satisfied, this information will help buyers avoid having unrealistic expectations and better prepare them to move forward. Make sure that they understand that the listing broker is required by legislation to deposit the buyer's check no later than the next banking day, and that it may take several days or even weeks for the broker to refund the money to them. Your clients will appreciate being well informed in advance.